Hey people, if you have any interest at all in boxing, it will be impossible not to realize that we are now 2 days away from the biggest fight possibly in boxing history. It's as simple as that. If you're a boxing fan, it would be unthinkable not to have at least some interest in this fight. Floyd Mayweather Jr., Manny Pacquiao, two of the greatest fighters of their generation, both among the greatest fighters of all time. Now the fight is already going to be historic because whatever happens in the fight itself, it's already an historic event because it is the most expensive fight ever. The talk on prices for ringside seats could be anything from $8,000 to $15,000. The referee, which has been determined to be Kenny Bayless, is going to get $10,000. The intake from the fighters themselves, um, can't remember the exact figures, but it's going to be well over 50 million per fighter, 60-40 in favor of Mayweather because Pacquiao is the underdog. Um, I think the significance of this is that here you have two great fighters, and the universally acknowledged as both great fighters. We don't just have a situation here where we have a great champion and a worthy contender. These guys are both great champions. They're meeting after years of um, hype and then letdowns, hype and letdowns, especially in 2010 when that fell through. I actually think there is one school of thought that says that, oh, well, it's not going to be the same as what it would have been 3 or 4 years ago because these guys are older now, etc., etc., etc. I actually think the length that it has taken will actually make this a bigger event. I think if these guys had fought 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, it would have been a big fight, but not the sort of super fight we are talking about. I've just watched a very interesting HBO series of interviews with Jim Lampley and Max Kellerman, and they featured some very notable fighters who have faced both Mayweather and Pacquiao. The fighters were Sugar Shane Mosley, Oscar De La Hoya, Ricky Hatton, Juan Manuel Marquez, Miguel Cotto, and yeah, those are the guys that they interviewed. And then in the second segment, they interviewed three other great fighters, which is George Foreman, Lennox Lewis, and Bernard Hopkins. Now, the interesting thing is, there's a lot I could say about that, and I'll put a link below this. Foreman, who is widely regarded as one of the greatest heavyweights of all time and an extraordinary figure in the boxing world, he said that he ranks this possibly as the third greatest fight ever. Now, coming from a man like George Foreman, that is quite something. And he puts it above his own Rumble in the Jungle. He put the greatest fights ever as Lewis Schmeling 2. That was, of course, the very, very tense meeting between the American Joe Louis and the German Max Schmeling. And there was a lot of political overtones in that. It was just on the eve of World War II. Schmeling was seen as representing Nazi Germany, perhaps wrongly. Joe Louis was seen as the hope of democracy, and so on and so on. That was a massively tense fight, possibly the most politicized fight ever. Um, Ali Frazier won. Was called the fight of the century. A number of fights where that really was a battle. Um, and Foreman says this one will be third. And think of all the great fights in boxing history. Think of all of them. He's placing it third. Now that is something. Um, in terms of the cultural significance of this fight, maybe it doesn't rank as highly as some of the ones I've named. Culturally, maybe it's not as important as the Rumble in the Jungle or the Lewis Schmeling fight. But nevertheless, still think there will be a lot of influence in this in terms of, do I think it will transcend the sport? I think on some level it will. Why? Because I've spoken to lots of people who aren't remotely interested in boxing talking about this. I think that says something. There are a lot of things a lot of people have said about what is going to happen on the night. There's some common themes. A lot of people mention Pacquiao's speed. A lot of people mention Mayweather's defense. Um, I think the reason Pacquiao is being seen as the underdog is simply because he has lost fights. Mayweather has never been beaten. In terms of who the pressure is on, George Foreman and Bernard Hopkins had different views on that. Foreman said that all Mayweather has to do is be consistent. Hopkins disagreed, saying that the pressure on Mayweather is on not to lose that O. Um, Needless to say, there will be enormous pressure on both men. I mean, leading up to this, I can't imagine what's going through the mind of these guys. Obviously, the professional boxers have both been in a lot of battles, especially Pacquiao. That's something that I think De La Hoya pointed out. He has been in more wars, but the pressure on both of these guys is going to be enormous. It doesn't matter how cool they seem; they wouldn't be human if they weren't feeling pressure right now. For Pacquiao, for example, he's the personification of a nation. I mean, there's very few sportsmen that really do have the appeal of an entire nation. And by the way, one of the world's most populous nations, as Manny Pacquiao does for the Philippines. I know many Filipinos online who are not that into boxing, but they still are very interested in what Pacquiao will do. I don't think in the United States Floyd Mayweather has the same appeal with the American public as Pacquiao has with the Filipino public. Nevertheless, I want to be very careful here about taking anything away from either fighter because I think that downplays just how big a deal this is. I'm a Pacquiao fan, so of course I want Pacquiao to win. I'll just say that off the top of the mark. But I'm not someone who disrespects Floyd Mayweather or underplays him. He is an outstanding fighter. He is an outstanding defense fighter, and I'm under no illusions as to the challenge that Pac-Man will face. Um, One thing that Floyd Mayweather has brought to the sport is making boxing look cool in the sense that he has had almost 50 fights and he looks almost as fresh as the day he started. Now that is a hell of an achievement. He may well be the greatest defensive fighter ever. I'm not saying he is. I'm just saying there is debate, um, and there is a fair claim that he could well be that. Um, I think if Mayweather loses this, the humiliation and the effect that that will have on him will be profound. Of course, if Pacquiao loses, he will feel that he's let down an entire nation. Although his Filipino fans, I'm sure, will stand by him. If they're true fans, they will support him whether he wins, loses, or draws. And I have seen that. Seen Filipino fans saying, "We'll still love you even if you lose," and that's nice to see, because it isn't always the case with boxing fans. You do get fickle fans. Certainly, Joe Lewis had to put up with that. But as a boxing fan, it's impossible to ignore this. In terms of myself, I can't see it in my house, unfortunately, because we don't have pay-per-view, and I can't really afford it right now. I might be going to a friend's house. His brother's going to watch it, I believe. I hope I can. Um, I never get to see any of the big fights live. I have to watch them on YouTube afterwards. But anyway, this just gives you an idea. These are free boxing magazines I often buy. Boxing Monthly is British. Boxing News is British. Ring Magazine, of course, probably the most famous boxing magazine, American. They are just some examples of the attention that is being put on this fight. There'll be a lot of celebrities there, of course. David Hasselhoff, Paris Hilton, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Mark Wahlberg. The list goes on and on and on. Kim Kardashian. It's it's going to be an event. There's no question about that. I would be very, very surprised if this is a boring fight, and I don't think it's going to be overhyped. Um, I don't think it will be. The money involved is staggering. I mean, I heard somewhere that Mayweather's mouth guard is worth $25,000. That is mind-boggling. Um, the vast majority of professional boxers will not make that money in a fight, never mind a mouth guard. Um, so it's truly staggering. Um, some people might raise a question mark at the money involved. Well, I would point out a lot of it is going to local charities, so that's a good thing. For example, the money made at the press conference, which itself sold out, which itself is an event. I believe that's taking place tomorrow. That's going to charities of both fighters. choices. I think there is definitely an element here of the good guy versus the bad guy. The good guy being Pac-Man, the bad guy being Mayweather, almost in a caricature-like format. Certainly, if we were judging fighters in that sense, it would be a case that, you know, Pacquiao is humble, he's polite, he's soft-spoken, he's a God-fearing man, etc. Mayweather is a womanizer. He's a bit of a bad boy. He's very arrogant. He shows off his money. So there is a sort of caricature of both fighters. But I think, you know, they're complex men, and I don't think it would be fair to sort of completely label them in completely that way. Um, but personally, I'm a Pacquiao fan. I just prefer his style, and I'm looking forward to seeing what will happen. I hope beyond hope that Pacquiao can pull this off. It's not because I want to see Mayweather flattened. I want to see Pacquiao get on top and win this. But I don't want to say Mayweather utterly humiliated. I'm not of that sort of thinking. I know some fans do. Um, like in any boxing match, I don't want any guy to get seriously hurt. But I do want a fight that will be remembered for years to come. And it's exciting. It is definitely, maybe you can see behind me, further in Manila. This is a fight that could be on that sort of level. That's how big a deal this is. Thinking of my own lifetime, I was born in 1985. The biggest fights of my lifetime, in terms of the just as an event, probably it's not easy to say, but probably Hagler Leonard, possibly Tyson Holyfield, Tyson Lewis, possibly Oscar De La Hoya Mayweather. In recent years, possibly Mayweather Alvarez, Mayweather Canelo, to give him his other name. Um, and a few other fights. But I don't think, when I really consider it, I don't think any other fight in my lifetime comes on this sort of level. And there's been a lot of big fights. You know, in the 29 years I've been on this earth, there have been a lot of big fights. But I really think this is going to be exceptional. And I do think this is special because I don't think this will be overhyped. I don't think it'll be a case that in the fight itself the fighters are going to let down the fans. I think this is going to be a war, and it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. If Pacquiao comes out aggressive all over Mayweather, then Mayweather's going to have to get into the defensive mode. He may have to. What Pacquiao may do is bring Mayweather out of his comfort zone, and he may well have an ability to do that in a way that other fighters haven't been able to do. I think if Pacquiao can do that, get Mayweather out of his comfort zone, and be able to handle that situation better than other all be it great opponents have done. Pacquiao may well get this, and I think the implications for the boxing world will be bigger if Pacquiao wins. If Mayweather wins, he'll cement his place as one of the greatest fighters of all time, and obviously he'll have an unbeaten record, which only a few other guys can claim. Rocky Marciano, Joe Calzaghe, and a few others. So Mayweather would probably retire after that. I imagine both fighters, if they don't retire, they'll definitely consider quitting pretty soon. If Pacquiao wins, not only will it be an upset, not a huge upset. I mean, it would not be the biggest upset ever, but he is the underdog after all, and I'm even saying that as a Pacquiao fan. If he wins, the sort of iconic status he will have as a prize fighter will absolutely be massive, massive. I think if Mayweather wins, I mean, the thing is, Mayweather's already got superstar status. They both do. But I think the implications might be bigger for Pacquiao simply because probably more people want Pacquiao to win. Um, and, you know, it's not that it's about a popularity contest. It's about the fact that Mayweather, in a sense, Mayweather is thinking more about his own record. I think Pacquiao really, really is considering what the people want. Um, I hope I can see this fight at my friend's house. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your predictions. It's interesting seeing Shane Mosley's point of view because it's widely agreed that the right hand he gave Mayweather in their fight was the hardest Mayweather ever got. Now I'm going to watch the Mosley-Pacquiao fight after I upload this video just to get a context because I haven't actually seen that fight and I want to see how it went down. In fact, there's a lot of fights I haven't watched in detail, and over the next 2 days I'm going to be watching a lot of both Mayweather and Pacquiao fights. From a British perspective, I want to see their fights with Ricky Hatton. Obviously, he's a British fighter, and I'm interested in that. My prediction, I think I'm reluctant to make a prediction. I want Pacquiao to win, but I'm under no illusions that Mayweather is one hell of a defensive fighter. Although what needs to be understood is Pacquiao is not just another guy. Manny Pacquiao is a boxing legend, and that's not to disrespect guys like Juan Manuel Marquez or Saul Alvarez or the others, but I think Pacquiao is exceptional, and I think we might see a big upset here, and I think Pacquiao may well win this on a decision, not a unanimous decision. I think it might be a controversial result. A rematch, well, that's a domain that hasn't even been talked about yet, and everyone's assuming this is going to be a one-off event. I think the assumption being that both guys are now getting too close to retirement. I think if they were to make this a trilogy like Ali and Frazier, it would have to be in a consecutive row. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a bit like Mayweather and Maidana. Otherwise, there'd be too many distractions focusing on other fighters. I think the determination both guys will have, whoever loses, the determination they will have to balance things out. Actually, I think if Mayweather loses, the thought of having a 48 1 record would be too painful for Mayweather. I think he would want a rematch. I think Pacquiao could possibly live with a defeat more than Mayweather could because Pacquiao has tasted defeat, but we'll see what happens. I'll make another video post fight. So my final thoughts on this are I really hope Pac-Man gets this. I hope both fighters stay safe. I hope the fans have a great night, and I hope it's just all around a great event, a memorable event in the boxing world. Let me know your thoughts. Mayweather or Pacquiao, fight of the century. And let me know if you think, let me know how you rank this fight, actually, even before it's happened. How do you think this fight will go down in boxing history? Give it a rank. I more or less agree at the moment. I would say this is somewhere around third biggest ever. But we'll see what happens. If it turns out to be an exciting, action-packed fight, it may even push into first place. We'll see. But there's no question about it. This is going to be boxing history, whatever happens. Let me know your thoughts, boxing fans. Cheers.